Racism is for the poors. And just to clarify, because I know people are sensitive and small minded, poors is not just a reference to amount of money. Being a poor is having a specific mindset, a specific set of habits, a specific worldview, and yes, it does also involve a lack of funds. But as we've discussed prior, a lack of funds is reflective of who it is that you are as a person. You don't provide any value, so you don't have anything valuable. Just wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way for the people who like to whine about such things because they lack the capacity to understand things or think beyond their normal associations, which is part of the reason why it is that they are where they are. But that is an entirely separate topic and a separate tangent. The point is, as I was saying, racism is for the poors. It is the lowest level of people in society who are absolutely obsessed with skin color and ethnic background and things along those lines. It makes up a very large portion of their discussions. I know when I was super broke and running around with super broke people doing super broke people shit, the color of my skin was an issue. It was constantly something about related to being light skinned or having good hair, and we talked about the dark skinned people and their nappy hair. We pointed out if there was some Mexican dude that hung out with us, he was the Mexican homie or the Asian homie or the white homie or some shit like that. Everyone's race was constantly brought up and discussed and focused on. And there were certain areas where the blacks hung out, certain areas where the Mexicans were, certain areas where the Asians were. There were certain things that black people did, certain things that white people did, certain things that the Mexicans, that the Asians, so on and so forth did. You understand, you get it. People had different issues with people based purely upon the color of their skin. And it was there that I learned the idea that your skin color was a very, very significant factor in life, and it would dictate everything that you could do. It would dictate how it is that you should be, the places that you can go, the people that you could be around, the amount of money that you could make, everything. Everything around those sorts of people came back to the idea that your fate was dictated by the color of your skin. They placed the entire control of their lives in something that they had absolutely no control over, which is incredibly telling. And as much as the poors love to talk about racism and how their skin color is holding them back and how they only deal with certain things because of their race, they themselves are ironically the most racist people that there are. The majority of people you see running around calling people some sort of slur about their skin color are people who can barely figure out how to pay their bills. They are the people who park their cars on the lawn. They are the people who drive through their neighborhoods and throw trash out of the window. They are, again, the poors. Regardless of how it is that you would like to slice it, this is a observable fact of life. And being around them, you will begin to think that whatever skin color it is that you are will dictate what it is that you could be in life. There's even a movie. This is White Men Can't Jump. They say the same thing all of the time. White men have no rhythm. It was poor folks who came up with that generalized concept because that is what their entire world revolves around. And for a very long time, I spent a very long portion of my life believing that I would never be able to elevate past a certain level. I spent a very large portion of time believing that I would always be judged, shunned, and not treated with kindness by rich white people because of what poor black people had told me. But as I started to move up in life and got around more mid-level people, I noticed that skin color was not as much of a focus. Whenever you go to apply for, little mid-level, mid-range jobs, nothing crazy, you're not super rich CEO level type shit, but you're making enough to live comfortably. What they focus on is not your background, the neighborhood that you're from, the color of your skin, but it's other more superficial shit like how are you dressed? Are you wearing a suit? Do you have a tie? Is your shirt tucked in? Did you go to college? If so, what college did you go to? What kind of car do you drive? How do you speak. And then they also again were the ones who focused on the superficial shit. Like, it was an issue that I had tattoos, it was an issue that I had earrings. These are the people who make people cut off their braids or their dreadlocks so that they could sell cars or whatever the fuck it is that they were selling. I don't know if they still do that now, but once upon a time in life they did. It is the middle of the road people who focus on middle of the road things. They have evolved past the idea that your skin color is a great dictator of who it is that you are, but to them, degrees mean more than experience, and a suit means more than competence. They focus on external factors. They place more importance on the decorations than they do on the tree itself. Do you have all of these shiny, bedazzled things that make you appear a way it is that we want you to appear? This is where the idea of things looking professional come from. You see people all of the time. You see them in the comments of YouTube videos, of Instagram things, having these conversations in real life. Rich people dress like this. Rich people drive cars like this. Rich people don't do this. Rich people don't do that. That is the conclusion that they have drawn from watching a bunch of mid-level people. People who make more money than them, but people who are absolutely by no means of the word rich. And to clarify, when I say mid-level people, that is more directly tied to socioeconomic status than the blanket term of the poor's is. However, it is a mindset related thing as well, because while lower level folks focus on things that they cannot control, the ones in the middle focus on things that are in your control but are not actually truly reflective of who it is that you are as a person, like suits and ties and degrees and cars and certain types of facial hair or whatever the fucking case may be. They focus on all of the superficial shit. And as I continue to move up in life and I got around more high level people, people who were making large amounts of money and doing something other than the typical sales or IT or nursing, some shit along those lines, where they were making a lot more money and were doing something that had a larger impact on the world and society as a whole, I noticed that they didn't actually give a fuck about either of those things. They weren't concerned with my skin color, they weren't concerned with my tattoos, they weren't concerned with what it is that I was wearing. No one asked me where I went to college or what I got a degree in. No one paid attention to any of that shit. What they focused on was who it is that you are as a person. What is your character? What are your morals? What are your values? What is your integrity? How do you see the world? Where is it that you came from? How is it that you got here? And where is it that you feel like you can go? They focused on what was brought to the table. Nobody gave a fuck about someone having a good idea, having a degree. That was not a prerequisite. It's just you're saying shit that makes sense and you're saying shit that can add value to my life. And not only how can you add value to my life, how can I add value to your life? They focused on the shit that really truly matters and makes a difference in the world and to people as a whole, which is why they are much further up the ladder than other people. I have been around very rich, very successful people who look like myself, who dress like myself. I have been around rich, successful people who wear nothing but suits and have their fancy little rich people haircuts and their clean shaven face, and rich people who look like complete fucking bums and homeless people, and you wouldn't be able to tell that they had $5 to spare, let alone $5 million in a checking account. Because while you're conditioned at these lower levels to believe that success looks a certain way, to believe that success is a tailored suit, to believe that success is a degree from an Ivy League school, to believe that success is no visible tattoos or anything along those lines, when you actually get around successful people, you will see that it is much different than you believed it to be, than you were led to believe that it would be, from people who had absolutely no business telling you what it would be like, because they had not actually experienced it for themselves. They had just heard stories. It is these campfire tales, so to speak, that get passed down, that lead people to adopt these beliefs, that keep them where it is that they are. And that is my overall point of this to begin with, is that The belief that you are being held back because of racism is far more damaging to you, to any individual person, than racism is. In this current day and age, I know everyone loves to bring up the past and say, well, what about Black Wall Street and slavery and segregation and Jim Crow? That's the fucking past. Nobody is talking about that shit. There are not these laws in place anymore, so that is fucking irrelevant. And if you are the type of person who is going to say that I can't be successful today because of what happened 100 years ago, then you are never going to be successful, because your mindset will always prevent you from succeeding. And you know what? You will deserve your fucking failure, because you will have brought it upon yourself, because you have adopted the beliefs that ensure that you fail at life no matter what, because that is the worldview that will prevent you from ever seeing a path forward and only ever seeing the obstacles and the roadblocks. It is that belief exactly that keeps people where it is that they are, because when I was around all of these low-level, poor-ass, poor-minded folks, it was them who I heard all of the time talking about all of the shit that they couldn't do, all of the stuff that was standing in your way and preventing them from ever being successful or elevating in life. And it was those same beliefs that prevented them from ever actually trying. It is those same beliefs that made them continue doing stuff that they were fully aware was of detriment to them. It was those same beliefs that led them to believe that the only opportunity that they would ever have in the world is crime or being a rapper. It is those same beliefs that led them to not even try doing certain things, because they believed that they were doomed to fail at it due to factors outside of their control. Because it is the poor people who adopt beliefs that are comforting to them rather than accepting a reality that is helpful to them. Because they, at the end of the day, are simply looking to feel better about their situation and cope with where it is that they are. And people like to point to all of these things, again, in regard to the specific race thing, to try and make up these points that they think mean something. Like, I hear people all of the time talk about, well, Oprah was shopping for handbags in Sweden and people were mean to her because she's black. As if this is an example of oppression. Oprah is a fucking billionaire. And if you believe that some fucking handbag merchant, I don't give a fuck how expensive the handbags were, if you believe some handbag merchant not considering Oprah to be someone worthwhile constitutes oppression, then no wonder you are a fucking failure. When you are talking about oppression, you are talking about people being actively held down, people actively being prevented from moving ahead. And that right there is not what is happening, at least not physically. The way that people are oppressed now are through these narratives. They are through the idea that you are doomed to suffer some sort of injustice due to your race, whether you be Mexican, whether you be Asian, whether you be black. It is the idea that that is something that will cause you to always have to deal with some sort of negativity that prevents people from moving forward. People are oppressed by their beliefs in these ideas more so than they are these things themselves. I remember when I was 19 years old, I lived in Charlotte off of West Boulevard. If any of you know where it is that is, you know what West Boulevard is, at least what it was back in the day. I can't speak to now. I haven't been there for a very long time, but I got pulled over leaving my little quadruplex apartment on the fucking corner, and I had a gun on my back seat. It was a large AK-47. Police, it was legal because in Charlotte you could buy those when you are 18 plus years old. I got pulled over with that. They yanked me out of the car. When they saw the gun, they stepped on my face. It broke my jaw. Now, for the longest period of time in my life, I swore that that was because of racism, and the TV pushing all of this shit doesn't actually help with that. But that's what I swore it was for the longest period of time. But then looking back, I realized that as I got older and as I was in nicer areas, driving nicer vehicles, I would still get pulled over, and I would still have a firearm in my vehicle, albeit it was a handgun the majority of the times, but I would still have a firearm in my vehicle, and I was still the exact same skin color that I was before. In fact, I had more tattoos than I did then. But I would get pulled over by these various officers who were perfectly nice, who were perfectly friendly, who were perfectly calm when they heard that I had a gun in the car, and they did not give a fuck. And I came to realize that the issue was not the color of my skin, nor was it even the gun in and of itself. It was where I was. I was in the habitat of the poors. And when you are around certain types of people, you expect certain types of things. In the exact same way that even if you are the world's biggest dog lover, if a large Rottweiler runs at you while you are on the street, you are going to be much more apprehensive seeing that dog coming towards you than you would when you go to your friend's house who has a Rottweiler and it approaches you. It's not the dog itself, it's the context in which it is that you are experiencing that dog. It is the exact same thing in the pullover situation. It is the context in which that is happening. Because in the area that I was in, people are violent and disrespectful and do stupid shit. So said officer assumed that I was going to be violent and do disrespectful shit because of the context of the situation around me. Or, again, maybe he was fucking racist. I don't know, and I never will know. But assuming that that's why things happen does not help you. The belief that that is why things are taking place will never serve you, because it will always put whatever it is that is taking place outside of your control. It will always have you pointing to factors that you cannot change to say that this is the reason for your suffering. And what the fuck are you going to do about that if that's the case? Not a single goddamn thing, because you can't. And that's the problem. And that's the problem with people adopting these beliefs. This is the problem with people adopting the belief that the patriarchy is preventing them from getting ahead because they're women and therefore they're always going to make less money and can't be doing this and whatever. That keeps people from trying, because why the fuck would you try to do some shit that you don't feel is possible? The belief that you are always going to be held back or looked at as less than will prevent you from the belief that you will always be held back or looked at as less than if you are black will prevent you from ever be trying to become more than if you are black. Because what's the fucking point? When you believe that there is no positive outcome, you will not take positive actions, because your belief is the absolute most important thing. And for you to truly do something, you need to believe that you will succeed. People love to point to all of these factors to try and prove this shit wrong. It's easier for some people. Maybe it is. Who gives a fuck? But something being harder for you does not mean that it is impossible to you. And you can look out into the world and you will see that there are successful people of all different races, religions, and creeds. And that right there should be enough to show you that if you do the work, you can get to wherever the fuck it is that you would like to go. You could point to all of the black celebrities that you would like who had some sort of trouble with some sort of law, and you could call it racism. You could call it whatever it is that you'd like. But the fact of the matter is, that's still a minority of them. And the fact of the matter is, there are still tons of them succeeding, not only in rapping, not only in music, not only in fighting, not only in sports, but in business as well. Every single place that you look, especially nowadays, you could go on Instagram, you could go on YouTube, and you could see tons of successful minorities doing all kinds of crazy shit that small-minded people believe to not be possible. And the only difference between them and whatever race that they would like to pick and person that they would like to point to is belief and work ethic. Floyd Mayweather is not a special black person. He just works harder and believes in himself more than other people do, because he refused to adopt these stupid ass narratives that people latch on to tell themselves that they can't fucking be better. Fucking the earn your leisure dudes are not special mystical Negroes. They just work harder and refuse to accept the narrative that they couldn't be better because of the color of their skin. And what do you know? They fucking got better. You could do the exact same thing once you stop adopting these nonsensical beliefs that due to some intrinsic unchangeable thing about you, there's nothing that you could do or your life will never be good. And until you stop clarifying regular shit as some sort of terrible thing, everyone's not going to like you. Period. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Mexican, Asian, Chinese, tall, short, bald, hairy, bearded, unbearded, gay, straight, whatever the fucking case may be. Not every single person is going to like you. And random examples of people discriminating against you is not proof that you can't be better. It is just proof that some people are discriminatory. Are some people always going to be racist? Yes, such is life. Who gives a fuck? Why do you need everyone to not be racist? You don't. As long as there are no laws in place place saying that you can't succeed due to your race, who gives a shit? People could be as racist and hateful as they would like to be. Fucking whoop-de-doo. People call you names. Whoop-de-fucking-do. You can still disregard all of that shit and make your money and level up in whatever capacity that you choose to in life. And if your biggest concern is that you are not liked by everybody, then you are a fucking high school student trying to win a popularity contest, and that is the reason that you were not successful. Not because of all this other shit, not because of fucking redlining from the 1960s or whatever, not because of fucking black code, not because of Jim Crow back in the day, not because of the fucking Tulsa, Oklahoma bombings and shit, not Black Wall Street, none of that. None of that past shit is affecting the present, excuse me. Yes, that shit happened, but no, it's not happening now. Once upon a time, there was no internet, yet here you are, watching this online. What do you know? Yesterday has no real fucking bearing on today. You could do whatever the fuck it is that you like. People point to these stupid ass examples. Well, what about Trump? Who cares if Trump is or is not racist? That doesn't mean a goddamn thing. He's still not putting laws in place despite what people would like to say to stop you from doing some shit. So shut the fuck up with your complaints, your justifications, or your scapegoats, and trying to find ways to make yourself feel better about your mediocrity and convince yourself that it's everyone else's fault but your own goddamn self. It is you. It is on you. Your failures are on you. It doesn't matter what your fucking skin color is. It doesn't matter any of that other shit. What matters is what you think, and what matters is what you do. And you are failing because you think stupid shit and you do stupid shit. There is not a person of any color in this world who has done everything necessary to succeed and not succeeded. That's not fucking life. That is not how fucking life works. If you don't have some shit, it's not because you were discriminated against. You don't have money, not because people are racist, but because you're a lazy bitch with absolutely no accountability. Your life is your own fucking fault. Stop blaming racism and start blaming the motherfucker in the mirror.